Good morning, everybody. Good morning, and thank you. Thank you for being here in such large numbers for the 4th edition of Innovative Cities. We're going to begin. I've been told that we have to stick strictly to our 30-minute slot, our timing slot. So I'm going to hand over straight away to Bernard Kleynhoff, who for this 4th edition is going to open Innovative City. Thank you very much, Bernard. We began Innovative Cities 3 years ago. We began to think about the project even before that. So we've come quite a long way since then, and I think we have a lot more to do together. So let me introduce Bernard Kleynhoff, the President of the Chambre of Commerce and Industry of Nice Côte d'Azur. Minister of State, Excellencies, Mayor, Member of Parliament, President of the Nice Côte d'Azur Métropole, my dear Christian, elected representatives, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to send particular greetings to Francis Bartholomé, who joined us this morning, who's the president of the National Association of Professionals of the Automobile Industry. And I'd like to start with some news which came in yesterday, which is not yet official, but I hope we can nevertheless talk about it, and that is the obtaining of the French Tech label. And I'd like to congratulate all the people who were involved in this project. I'd like to very warmly thank all the elected representatives, all the MPs who have worked to ensure that we could obtain this label. It was a complex project, more complex than many others, because we wanted to extend this to the whole of our Métropole organization. And in particular, I would like to thank the president of the Métropole, who supported us and helped us to obtain this label for the whole of the territory of the French Riviera. So, as I say, this is so far unofficial, but I hope that that news will be confirmed. Today, then, we're starting the 4th edition of Innovative Cities. Innovative Cities is now 4 years old. We can't yet say that we are mature, but nevertheless, I think we can say that it is the age of growth. And when I see the number of people attending here, I'm sure that this proves that we are on the right track. So I'd like to thank Christophe Ferry and Jean-Marc Moulina, and above all the Nice Côte d'Azur Metropolis, with whom for the 4th time we are organizing this event. And I hope that this will be the forerunner to many other inaugurations of innovative cities, which sometimes is running out of space even. Jean-Marc told me that he was having time problems, so I'll try to help him by being very brief. Innovative Cities is the encounter between smart cities, the cities of tomorrow, with friends, partners who come from all our partner cities, because in all continents now, smart cities, innovative cities are important. And in many territories like ours, people have moved on from thought to action. So now we are building a genuine sustainable territory, which will be good not only for the future of the planet, but also for the future of our children, our companies, and for the competitiveness of our territory. And I'd like to greet Christian Tordeau, the president of the Var Valley Association. Our partners, like him, will be helping us to make progress. And the representatives here of the automobile industry, their presence is important because they too have issues which are similar to ours. And of course, there are many other issues, for example, control of our resources, whether it be energy or water, and then other complex issues like joint management of waste. All these subjects, of course, are particularly acute in our situation because we are a seaside area, and that makes our situation rather more complicated than in some other places. But thanks to the energy and commitment of everybody concerned, we shall face up to all these problems. And throughout this event, which has been structured in such a way that you can share your best practices and experiments and your experiences, and also look ahead into the future. And I'd like to thank all the participants and all the exhibitors, because I think that they reflect the dynamic nature of these 2 days. And I hope that all this will bear fruit for our companies, our territory, and our children. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. I'll hand over now to Christian Estrosi. He is Mayor of Nice, Member of Parliament, President of the Metropolitan Organization, Nice Côte d'Azur. Without you, Christian Estrosi, nothing would have been possible here. We are one of the 5 leading cities in the world in terms of sustainable and innovative development. Thank you very much. It's true that the opening of this 3rd edition of Innovative Cities is necessarily a very emotional moment, because we can see just how far we've come. 8 years ago, I expressed the wish that Nice, which was already a large city, the 2nd most important tourist destination in France after Paris, should develop its services. Since we lacked industry here, I expressed the wish that we should turn deliberately towards everything that was involved in the concepts of green growth and intelligent cities, and that we could make our city, our area, a model for industrial development in the future. Now, I couldn't imagine then that 8 years later, this would enable us to become one of the 5 leading cities in the world to obtain the Smart City label. We are in fact the 4th behind Singapore, but ahead of London, and we are the only French city to obtain that distinction. And today I can confirm that Bernard Kleynhoff, I can say that the fact that we obtained the French Tech label is just another feather in our cap. We have, of course, advantages. We have the Sophia Antipolis Science Park. We have the industrial centres in Cannes, Grasse, and then the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Nice Côte d'Azur area. All these organizations have got together and enabled us to present our dossier to the government, and that means that Nice is one of the cities that has been chosen by the government to obtain this French Tech label. Now, I can confirm that. That is, in fact, now definite. I'd like to express my welcome to the Minister of State of the Principauté of Monaco, with whom I shall have the pleasure in just a little while of signing a new agreement. Of course, regularly we sign partnership agreements with the Principality in many different fields. This one will be all the more important insofar as it will be signed in the presence of Prince Albert II of Monaco, who will be joining us during the morning. And I also like to express my welcome to Francis Barthelemy and all the other elected representatives of French and European cities. In fact, we have people who've come from all over the world, from Africa and South America. People from all those areas are here with us today. And in the name of all our elected representatives in the metropolis and in the Alpes-Maritimes department, I'd like to say welcome. Now, 3 years ago, many things were still in the future, but they are now actually happening before our very eyes. We are building a new world, and this knowledge-based economy, which Jean Tirole, the French economist, has explained to all of us, this is something that is now making great changes in our lives and our cities. Just one fact, which I think is very striking. The IBM expert system can now analyze in just a few minutes hundreds of millions of scientific work in oncology, which a cancer expert would take 40 years to read. Now, I think that this example shows just how important all these challenges are. In this new economy, the wealth of nations will be measured not only in terms of physical wealth, but also in terms of flows of information, which we can now measure. So digital intelligence is at work everywhere. In Nice, as in many other cities that are represented here, we wanted to be fully part of this new economy. We wanted to exploit all its potential so as to serve all our citizens. Like me, you know just how important this potential is, because the new raw material, that is information, is in itself inexhaustible. And the power of our digital servers, which enable this information to circulate, increases every year in a quite phenomenal way. Thanks to this conference, we're going to be able to look at all these innovations. We're going to be able to better understand their scope. We're going to be able to anticipate the upheavals that are to come in order to ensure that we can get the best out of all these innovations. In this new world that we are building, everything will communicate with everything else. Everything is connected, everything is part of one single unit. And it is this solidarity, this interdependence that I want to mention here today, because this word solidarity is particularly appropriate to the operation of digital networks. But of course, it also has moral values. And so the ongoing revolution should be the occasion of a new social pact, a new sharing of information and knowledge, from which nobody should be excluded. The enormous house that we are building, a house with invisible walls, a house that we have been building here over the last 5 years, is a house that should be open to everybody. There are issues in the terms of climate, industrialization and town planning, but there are also issues which are quite simply human issues. And finally, it's all our citizens who will be called upon to express their opinion of the quality of the services that are offered and the life that is made available to them in our cities. The intelligent city is something that we should experience on a day-to-day basis. Let me give you a little concrete example, which I'm sure will interest everybody. I believe that the Mayor of Pau, the Secretary of State of Poland, will be interested in this. I'm talking about Spot Mairie. This is a virtual office which offers genuine practical services. It's something that we've experimented with Cisco in the Nice Côte shopping center. That was a world first. The population of Nice has adopted this. It makes it possible to fill in administrative forms in a totally decentralized manner. And after this test period, which has had very positive results, we are installing a new center now in the Centre Leclerc shopping centre in Saint-Isidore, and then in other districts of the city, in the northern and eastern parts of our town in particular. So during the next few months, our fellow citizens will be able to see that smart city doesn't just mean robots and screens or rather mysterious networks, but on the contrary, the smart city represents something very practical and concrete. And then another example with urban environmental monitoring, which we are now installing in the Var Plain as part of our Echo Valley project. This is one of the most enormous networks of digital sensors ever installed in Europe, more than 3,000 overall, 1,500 of which are already operational. In the long run, this demonstrator, which we've set up with a consortium of industrial partners, Veolia, Orange, Veolia, IBM and MV City, this will make it possible to test more than 20 urban services in order to optimize their use. I'm not going to list all of them here, but let me just mention one French first. We have an automatic sensor which measures and analyzes pollen in real time. And when I say in real time, it's even better than real time because it even offers predictions. 24 hours before the arrival of a peak of pollution by pollen, we are able to announce this, forecast it, and therefore take the necessary measures to neutralize its effects. Because we are also experimenting in the bus services, radiators which will emit waves which will neutralize the effects of pollen. So this is something very concrete, very practical in terms of public health. The apparatus has already been installed in the town centre on the roof of the art gallery. We also have another network along the new tram line in order to follow atmospheric pollution on a day-to-day basis before, during and after the work on the new tram line. It's there again something similar to what you do in the health field when you carry out an epidemiological study. In the past, it would have taken 30 years, for example, to analyze the increase in breast cancer in women or prostate cancer in men. But in just 3 years, we're going to be able to launch our own epidemiological study on the emissions of CO2 and other greenhouse gases, and we shall see just what the impact of our new tram route is. We shall be able to compare the situation of 2 or 3 years ago, which we have already monitored year by year. We've traced the peaks of pollution, and then we shall see how we can manage the problems that occur during the works, and we shall see what improvement is brought about in the 2 or 3 years that follow the launch of the new tram line. We hope, of course, that there will be a positive impact on pollution, but we also have sensors which inform us about the energy situation in our social housing in the Moulin area. 2 buildings have been equipped so as to monitor the consumption of water and heating, and goals have been fixed with all the residents. Residents can now follow their consumption day by day, even hour by hour, thanks to a mobile application available on a tablet. And at the beginning of the summer, maybe I should also mention another network of sensors which will enable us to look at the UV levels locally, region by region and hour by hour, in order to avoid health problems. The first tests will be started very shortly. So you can see the uses of these captors, these sensors are vast. Thanks to digital technology, we are building a new urban architecture. And I use this word architecture quite deliberately, because the idea is to build a new house, a house for all of us, for our fellow citizens, a house in which everybody will be involved in this new adventure and will be jointly responsible. By the very nature of its operation, an intelligent city is necessarily a city turned towards its residents. I think the smart grid experiment has already given us proof of this. Shining proof, in fact, because thanks to these intelligent electricity grids, all our consumers have become partners in the battle against wastage of energy. In Carros, our vice president has set up the Nice Grid project, which has now become operational. Companies and families which take part in this experiment are encouraged to consume less, to consume better, thanks to an optimization system and thanks to real-time monitoring of their consumption, and also thanks to the use of solar energy. We're going to continue this experiment in the Nice Meridia Science Park with the participation of 100 new startup companies which are part of the 06 Grid project, which is run by Bernard Kleynhoff, the president of the Chambre of Commerce and Industry. And there's also a family which is going to be able to monitor consumption on a digital tablet thanks to the new Linkley meters. All these families are just the spearhead of a great army, because it's 150,000 Linkley meters which are going to be deployed in Nice and throughout the whole of our Echo Valley project. The fact that we've chosen the smart grid at a scale which goes way beyond anything that has been done so far in France is because all this is revolutionary on 2 levels. First of all, this will be the smartest tool available to control demand tomorrow, and also it will enable us to introduce renewable energies massively into our network. And at the point of convergence between the existing networks and the new digital networks, we shall be able to set up a new sustainable energy system. That is our intention. All these issues are important: the environment, energy, but also in terms of production and export. There are industrial issues at stake. According to the experts, intelligent grids will, between now and 2020, enable us to create 20,000 new jobs and create a turnover of something like 6 billion euros. Our metropolis will be obviously involved in the new industrial French project for which the region is a candidate. All this is one of the leading acts in our regional plan and our industrial plan, because it involves one of the biggest extensions of the smart grid in France. Now, an industrial revolution always involves two stages. First stage is the stage of technical maturity, and the second stage is the extension to uses, and perhaps even new uses, new ways of using and consuming the new technology. So in partnership with leading groups like IBM, Cisco, ERBF, EDF, Orange, Bosch, Veolia, etc., in partnership with all these companies, in Nice we are now moving on to this second stage. Our national interest project is the field for experiment in all these new uses. And it's here that we shall be building the exemplary new city for tomorrow. It was in last February that we were classified among the first 4 smart cities at world level, along with Barcelona, Singapore, Barcelona, and New York. And I'd invite you to come along and look at our new Nice Meridia Technopolis, where we have just opened the Smart City Innovation Center. This is a collaborative platform which is unique in France and which is there to serve innovation and economic development. A platform where science, university research, companies, startups, and of course our local authority will join forces in order to ensure that digital intelligence can benefit the whole of our territory. I'd also like you to visit the Arenas worksite, where we are preparing the arrival of the second tram line for an enormous new multimodal transport exchange center, and which will also be the starting point of our Echo Valley with its residential districts and its science park. But of course, the digital revolution has no frontiers. No territory can be the exclusive home of this, because networks are, by their very nature, universal. And in this new world, we shall have to manage all the levels of interdependence. And this is what we are setting out to do. First of all, of course, on our own territory. While in the West, we are building this new city devoted to science, industry, and technology. In the eastern part of our city, we are building the new European Health Centre. Here, it's connected health, which is going to occupy a major place. So we shall create 2 new economic lungs, as it were, one on the west side, the other on the east side of our city. They will, of course, have to communicate with one another and develop powerful synergies. So all this is being constructed along with the other science centres that already exist in our area, and it is this that has enabled us to obtain the French Tech label. This, too, is an important issue for all of us, along with Sophie Antipolis, Cannes and Grasse. This digital center is now booming. There are more than 1,000 companies that have moved in over the last 3 years. Just now I talked about World Without Frontiers, and I believe that Minister of State from the Principauté of Monaco, Michel, it is now time to mention the agreement that the Nice Côte Métropole will shortly be signing with the Principauté. Digital technology is an essential issue for Europe, and international collaboration is, of course, part of this strategy. This cooperation is something new on this scale because it concerns a whole state and a local territorial authority in France. It's also drawn up on a very pragmatic base because it is part of a public-private partnership which will guarantee its dynamism. We have a lot to learn together. We have many things to exchange and to build together in fields like energy efficiency, renewable energy sources, urban monitoring, or the very promising sector of data management. I'm talking, of course, about big data, data centers, data mining. Respective projects will be all the better if we can manage them together on a complementary basis. In conclusion, I would like to remind you that when we talk about innovation, the word industry naturally follows on. And of course, what we are talking about here is essentially industrialization, thanks to these new digital technologies and thanks to the exploitation of the billions of items of data which are now contained in the memories of our computers. 60 billion interconnected objects in the world in 2020. But the Industrial Revolution that is now underway is even more original than that. This new knowledge-based economy is based on sharing. All of us, each one of us becomes a transmitter and a receiver. But all this goes way beyond the field of production. It also concerns society, culture, the intellectual world, the philosophical world. All these new technologies, which we are involved in here, are going to bring about revolutions in our minds. Our world is no doubt on the eve of an unprecedented wave of innovation. So let's try to ensure that we can exploit these innovations together in the best interests of humanity and in the best interests of our planet. Let us hope that these innovations will enable us to reinforce our social pact, thanks to solidarity, thanks to sharing, that these innovations will enable us to fight climate change and the threats that represents because of the emissions of greenhouse gases. I believe that this Innovative Cities Conference is an invitation to all of us to remain reasonably optimistic about the future of our societies. But let us never forget that without technology, the life expectancy of the human being would only be about 20 years. Without technology, we would still be back in prehistory, and the services offered to our populations would remain, let us say, very rudimentary.
Thank you, Christian Estrosi, for this excellent speech. I'll now give the floor to the Minister of State of the Principauté of Monaco. You will shortly be signing a convention with Christian Estrosi, as mentioned earlier on. I think this precedes COP21, which will be held at the end of the year. And I think that no doubt it will serve as an example, not only for other regions involving two countries, but also different territories, because we talk not only about cities, but territories and regions. Thank you for being here this morning. Minister President of the Metropolis Nice Côte d'Azur, advisor to the government, Mayor of Gdansk, ladies and gentlemen, members of Parliament, President of the Chambre of Commerce and Industry. First of all, sir, I would like to thank you very warmly for your invitation and for having enabled a delegation from Monaco comprising many representatives of the administrative services and also companies. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to attend this major international event on innovative cities, which brings all of us together. Thanks to technological progress and the ever wider use of digital technologies in our daily lives, it is indeed essential to have digital solutions which are highly innovative in order properly to manage our territories and areas. This is viewed as the third industrial revolution, so it's our responsibility to adapt to these technological changes and also these societal changes. Jeremy Rifkin, in his book, mentions the Principauté of Monaco as being an area where many experiments are being carried out. Because of its town planning, there is easy access to digital infrastructure. Likewise, the Prince is deeply involved in the issue of sustainable development. Madam, the advisor to the government, who is present here, has fostered a cross-cutting approach in her department with a view to improving the environment and the effective action of services thanks to digital technologies. You also, sir, you are working in a determined manner to develop Eco Valley within Nice and the surrounding area. This is a very good example of structural changes in an area incorporating the latest technological changes in the service of citizens. The two labels you mentioned, sir, just a few minutes ago, bear witness to these achievements. As, however, you recalled, it's not technology alone that will enable us to bring about real changes at all different levels. We will need real political courage based on support from our societies, the idea being to move forward together, not in an isolated fashion. Hence, we have COP21, which will shortly be held in Paris from the 30th of November to the 11th of December. His Serene Highness, Prince Albert II, is, of course, deeply committed to the environment and ecology, so we will work hard to ensure that down-to-earth, effective, binding agreements are entered into in order to combat climate change. Of course, this will hinge on a reduction in emissions of greenhouse gases. We cannot but note that owing to the incredible urban development over the last 3 decades, this greenhouse gas emissions are particularly high in cities. It is up to we political decision makers together to move forward. We need initiatives like the one here at this conference, which will enable us to change our cities in a deep-seated manner and to adapt to the requirements of the century. President, the cooperation agreement we shall be signing this morning is part of this general move. The working group that will be set up, comprising members of Nice Côte d'Azur Metropolis and Monaco, will enable us to move forward on concrete projects of common interest in the digital field. The aim is to improve digital exchanges thanks to the creation of new infrastructures, the sharing of experimental results when it comes to digital cities. And of course, we must take up the challenge of the legal constraints involved in big data. So we'll be setting up this working group, which should help us to create an environment conducive to an improvement in the general lifestyle of our populations and economic development. Also, we will be welcoming, no doubt, many innovative companies in these areas. I wish this 4th edition of Innovative City a resounding success, and I hope the participants will have both constructive and fruitful exchanges and discussions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You might care to look around the exhibition area, and our session will begin at 10:30. The title of the session is Draw Me a Creative City, so we look forward to seeing you in a quarter of an hour's time.